or what he looked like. Often an outcast in his lifetime, he was portrayed as a hero by artists long afterward, with eyes that saw liberty instead of intolerance, ears that heard persecution and heartily rejected it, the mouth that irrepressibly spoke out for what he called soul liberty, the stature of a man whose legacy of freedom is a basic tenet of American democracy. Born in London in 1603, Roger Williams was educated for the ministry at Cambridge University, but became increasingly troubled by the king's religious persecution. Like the Pilgrims and Puritans, he fled to the newly formed Massachusetts Bay Colony, enduring a dangerous 2-month sea voyage to escape this oppression. Arriving in Boston in 1631, he was disappointed to find the same strong alliance between church and state here as in England. He sought a place where the freedom to practice any religion or the choice to practice none was possible. As a preacher, Williams was passionate and outspoken, encouraging separation from the Church of England.
My conscience was persuaded against the national church and ceremonies.
More than that, he declared that the colonies had no right to the Native Americans' land. Williams was arrested and charged with new and dangerous opinions against the authority of the magistrates and banished from Massachusetts. When he heard the court intended to deport him back to England, Williams left his wife and young children and fled. It was February of 1636, in bitter winter.
I was exposed to the mercy of a howling wilderness in frost and snow. For 14 weeks I knew not what bread nor bed did mean.
Shortly after his arrival in 1631, Williams forged friendships with the leaders of the Narragansett and Wampanoag people and learned their languages. Now they came to his aid. The chief sachems of the Narragansett, Canonicus and Miantonomi, helped him acquire land at the headwaters of the Narragansett Bay. He named the place Providence.
With a sense of God's merciful providence unto me in my distress, I desired it to be a shelter for persons distressed of conscience.
Soon this new colony became a refuge for those seeking freedom from religious persecution. 6 years after he established the colony, Williams traveled to London to secure a royal charter for Rhode Island. While there, he published 2 books. First was the most popular, about the languages and customs of Native Americans. However, Parliament ordered the bloody tenet of persecution to be destroyed and burned because it challenged the connection between church and state. Williams returned to America with a patent for the Providence plantations. It was unique, a plan for government that had no rules of religion. His return was greeted with a rousing welcome, and he was elected chief officer. Though still banished in Massachusetts, when tensions arose with neighboring Native Americans, he was called on as interpreter and negotiator. Rhode Island continued to be the only sanctuary in America for liberty of conscience. It took another 2-year trip to London for Williams to secure the Royal Charter for Rhode Island, establishing in 1663 that all and every person have full liberty in religious matters.
Our charter excels all in New England or the world as to the souls of men.
Roger Williams had been writing and speaking out for 30 years. Only part of his writings and oral history have survived, but his work left its mark. Religious liberty originated in Rhode Island, the First Baptist Church in America, the oldest Quaker meeting house, and the oldest synagogue in the United States. Other colonies followed Rhode Island's charter. A year later, New Jersey's echoed the precise words, then North Carolina and Pennsylvania. 100 years later, in 1777, Thomas Jefferson's writings led directly to the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment, separating religion from politics. Roger Williams' once radical ideals were included in the First Amendment in our Bill of Rights, embodied in these words: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The freedom of religion guaranteed to this day by the U.S. Constitution.